Hey guys, welcome back to Let's Talk Movies. I'm Brad,
I'm Miguel, guys.
and this is episode 20 of our show. We're talking The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I really should be saying Captain America and the Winter Soldier because, well, really Captain America and the White Wolf, because that's where we're at now.
I don't really know. Yeah, I guess we kind of are. I mean, his name
we
White
are.
Wolf hasn't been settled yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we can talk about this further too. I'm curious to see how he evolves even from this show.
Yeah.
But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This is our spoiler review of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And we're also going to throw in some Loki predictions in there too, since we have to wait like 4 or 5 more weeks, I think, for Loki. Whereas there were only, 2 weeks in between WandaVision and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, which, I mean, they already laid down the schedule for when these things are going to drop. But isn't there like a behind the scenes kind of thing?
There's Assembled. I haven't watched it yet. But there's that show Assembled on Disney Plus. It's all of the behind the scenes stuff of Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision, and I think they're going to do one for every single show. So that'll be kind of interesting and cool to watch. But how you doing, buddy?
So I'm cold, man. You see his giant ass sweater inside me?
You're cold.
My dad got this shit down to like 63 degrees.
Why?
It's just, I don't know. He just has
it's not that hot.
Like that. I don't know.
I've been outside. I was sweating my ass off all day though. We got all of our garden planted. We have a whole bunch of different stuff. And it was funny. I wanted to tell you this because you and I can handle hot pretty well.
Okay. Fair.
And we ran by this farmer's market stand, and this guy, he was selling hot peppers. Well, he had a whole bunch of different things. I ended up getting some Scotch bonnet peppers. I got Julia got some Chinese 5-pepper or 5-color thing. It's kind of more of a mild, which Scotch bonnets I think are pretty hot. But he had a whole row of Carolina Reapers, and I was like, oh, I was tempted. I was really tempted to do it. And he was like, I said, have you eaten the Reapers? And he said, yeah. He said, I'm going to be straight up with you. It's just unpleasant. I was
it is unpleasant, man.
I'm good. I said I like hot, but I'm not. I said I don't like that hot. So it was funny because he was saying that like they're very like there's a ton of them. That was the other reason I didn't get them, is because I was like, I'm not gonna eat them all. Like there's no way I'm gonna eat them all.
The Carolina Reapers?
If I grow them, yeah, because he said they just pop up constantly. Like they grow really easily. Whereas I said, how come you don't have any ghost chilies? And he said ghost chilies don't grow as easy. Like she's only got like one plant that's actually like germinated and made it. So I don't know. It's kind of strange. It's probably climate too.
You're talking about ghost peppers?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. It's hilarious because I've tried the Carolina Reaper. I don't know if I told you that.
Like you've eaten one?
I've eaten one, yeah. And boy, does it smack you in the face hard at the paddy wagon.
I could only
imagine. By the way, yeah, at the Richmond here in Richmond. We have it's called the Paddy Wagon, and shout out to Paddy Wagon, by the way. But they have like an hot pepper eating contest, and they had it all lined out. I was watching it because I couldn't get into it because I guess I signed up too late. But whenever I got there, I was just sitting there watching them do it, and they had like this whole shebang. And the last one was the Carolina Reaper, and I shit you not, like through level after level, people were just leaving. They were burning. There's like a spot across like at the balcony where people just threw up, and they had hoses ready. And at the end of the night, they laid out little samples of each pepper that was used in the challenge, and they had a little one for Carolina Reapers. And me and my friend Chris decided to grab one, and I'm talking like a tiny minute, like not even this big, and we just both popped one in. And I shit you not, I went to the restroom as soon as it went in my mouth. I was like, I'm prepared to do whatever I need to do to calm this heat. Because all I had on
Yeah.
me was a beer, and that ain't gonna help jack shit.
Yeah,
So
beer doesn't do too well when
not at
you're
all.
dealing with hot wings or anything hot.
Yeah, exactly.
It
So I
kind of adds
spent
fuel to the fire.
yeah. So I spent like a good solid 5 minutes just taking that little bit of pieces. And
Yeah.
like you said, like the both of us can like handle our heat well. But when it comes to that, that's just like you're just asking for like pain at that
Yeah.
point.
I
But
know
yeah,
they're at Kodo in Richmond. There was this one time we were all eating there. My whole family was there, and my dad and I both got General Tso's chicken, and
okay.
I love General Tso's chicken. Like, and again, we like hot. Like me and my dad, all the guys in my family like hot, and they brought it over, and there were these little tiny red peppers in it. They weren't ghost chilies or Carolina. It wasn't anything like that. I don't know. I don't even know what kind of pepper it was. They were only about this big, but they were cooked in it whole. And we started eating it. About a minute and a half later, it was like we looked at each other. That was probably the hottest thing I've ever eaten. Like we ended up sitting on the curb, like outside. That's how hot it was. It was really bad. It was delicious, just really bad. So
yeah,
I chickened out of the Carolina Reapers. I couldn't do it. I was like, nah. I was like, I'll go a step down and I'll go with the Scotch bonnet because I can't. I was like, I'm not going to use them all. There's no way.
Our next Instagram
So
live is going to be about Brad
it will.
eating the Carolina Reaper
It will.
while drinking that habanero whiskey, whatever the fuck is
No.
that.
Yeah, I do have my habanero whiskey still.
Yeah,
This is my thing I drink. This is what I drink when we start the show. It's what I do. It's my tradition.
He needs to eat the Carolina Reaper and then chase it down with that habanero drink. I can't imagine the stress.
That would be, first of all, that would be disgusting because this is mango habanero, so it's got like a tropical thing to it.
Yeah, yeah.
But
it's for the content, for the views.
If we do that, the quality of the show has gone down after episode 20. But speaking of, can you believe we're at episode 20? This is 20 weeks of Let's Talk Movies.
That is true. And you know what? I was expecting to be at 10. Hell, I wasn't even expecting to be at 5. Yeah. I'm sorry, guys, but when Brad brought up this podcast stuff, I mean, I was like, okay, yeah, this would be fun. This would be just a fun, quick thing to do. It'll probably be over within like, the next couple of months. But yo, we've honestly surprised ourselves with this.
We have. I must say, even you and I a few days ago, we were looking back after we finished, before we hung up our Zoom call here, about our going back and looking at some of the older episodes and things like that, and looking at our backgrounds and just the quality. I'm very pleased that we've been able to, I think consistently bump up quality. Now, you all might not think that. You may think, wow, look at these two assholes on YouTube doing something stupid, but we're having a good time with it. So yeah, we hope you guys are having a good time too.
Yeah, but let's be honest. I went from my fucking phone and my work office straight to basically my room that I actually had to set up. Like all this shit right here, I had in my closet because I'm not one to hang up posters. So they just sit there in collections. But then like as soon as shit started hitting the fan, or shit started hitting, I was like, damn, I really need to beef up my setup. And yeah, I was kind of embarrassed. I watched the first couple episodes. Oh my God. I'm surprised no one didn't flame me with my setup. Jesus. It was literally on an iPhone 8 for me.
I'm very pleased with how far we've come, and it's funny because I mean anybody who does the YouTube thing or does a podcast or anybody who puts themselves out there like that, it's a lot of work. I mean, like it is a lot of work. Like we spend a lot of time talking about what we're going to do and going through this and planning it out and typing everything and making the thumbnails and making the the pictures and the graphics and editing the video. I mean, it's a lot of work, and anybody who does this knows that. And I think if you would have told me around episode 4 or 5 that we'd be here and that we would have grown this much, I probably would have laughed at your face. I'd be like, get the hell out of here. Like there's no way. Yeah. So I'm very pleased. And that goes out to you guys, man. Thank you to everybody who's watched and commented and liked and followed on Twitter and Instagram and everything else, man. Thank you so much, because you guys are what's keeping it alive. You're what's pushing us forward. So we really appreciate it.
We appreciate it. We'll have this conversation again at episode 30.
We will. We will. It'll be an every 10 episodes thing. Look how far we've come. Look how far we've come. So yeah, but we're also excited about the future. I think now that we're getting closer to summer, school will be ending for Miguel. I'll be on my summer break, and I think we'll have a lot of fun things planned for the summer too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We'll it'll be a good time.
But let's move on to this episode, man.
Let's do this thing. So the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Overall, first thoughts. What do you got?
I would 10 out of 10. I believe that is better than WandaVision.
I would agree.
Yeah,
I would agree.
By far.
I think going into it, so I genuinely I didn't think that I would be as into the Falcon and the Winter Soldier as I was into WandaVision, because I was super into WandaVision. WandaVision kind of like swept the rug out from under me. I was not expecting to like it as much as I did. But I liked this even better. It exceeded my expectations in the best possible way.
It did. I remember. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Remember in our first episode when they did when Kevin Feige did the big schedule for everything that's coming out, and when he mentioned Falcon and Winter Soldier, I'm pretty sure I remember thinking, what the fuck? I feel like that's a throwaway thing. I thought it was just gonna be
that's the whole reason for this podcast.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing. I was sitting at home when they did Disney Investor Day. That's what our first episode is about.
Yep.
I was sitting at home and I was like, God, I want to talk about this. And I kept calling you and texting you, and that was the birth of this podcast. That was its conception. Kevin Feige conceived this podcast.
Pretty much. Congrats, Kevin Feige. If I ever meet you, Kevin Feige, I promise you, I will give you the biggest.
He's gonna kiss you right on the lips.
Trust me, man. I'll be fully vaccinated. It'll be all right. I'll kiss you, and then I'll give you a big hug, and we could just see where the night takes us, man.
Right.
But
you'll buy him a martini, a real filthy martini. It'll be a good old time.
For sure.
But for me, I think the biggest compliment that I can give this show, is that the character arcs were unfreaking believable the entire time. I mean, Sam was very unsure of his self-worth. He wasn't sure that Steve made the right decision in giving him the shield. He didn't know why Steve gave him the shield. And he became Captain America at the end. I'm wearing the wrong shirt. I'm wearing my Civil War Steve Rogers, Tony Stark. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Tony Stark shirt. But Sam's whole character arc, Bucky's character arc with trying to right his wrongs, and he's looking for purpose. I really, and I've always liked Bucky, but this show made me like Bucky all that much more.
Yeah.
And even Zemo, man, bringing Zemo back into the mix, it was awesome. I've watched that the Zemo dancing, the Zemo cut that Marvel put on at least 100 times. Like it's like my favorite thing ever.
I think it's fucking hilarious that Marvel's the one that dropped that video. It was I think it's like an hour or two loop of him just dancing.
Yeah, it's like an hour-long loop.
It's like that became like the biggest meme that came out of this show, because almost everything can have a meme now. But yeah, when Helmet Zemo went out there dancing, did his thing, it made us all love him, even though he did a lot of messed up things. If you look back at what he's done and Civil War, bar none, this man literally created havoc for a lot of people. I mean, yeah, he's the one that destroyed the Avengers. He can successfully say he destroyed the Avengers.
He did.
And I've seen people talk about it, and they say that even though they never understood why he was getting so much praise or getting so much attention in this TV show and this show, because they started peeling back everything he did back then, and this man killed he actually killed civilians. He killed innocent people for his gain. And that's something that has to be said. Yeah, he's terrible person, but again, his character arc since Civil War has grown tremendously, and we could say the same thing for almost everybody in here. It goes for sure, even the side characters, which I mean, I would love to talk about Joaquin Torres. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Sam's partner in the beginning. I'd love to talk about him, see what his future holds.
For sure. Well, let me ask you this. One of them does. Do you think that this was a redemptive arc for Zemo? Or do you think deep down Zemo is still the guy who's willing to do whatever it takes to get what he wants?
I think this was a important. Uh, I think this show was so important for Zemo because I think in at the end of the show they are hinting the point that they're gonna bring up the Thunderbolts, which
Yeah.
obviously is like a separate, I guess an anti Avengers that's
Hmm.
run by what's his name? Who am I thinking of?
Ross.
Ross.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ross.
of Secretary Ross. But it's interesting to know that
I'm still waiting for
Val's
him
gonna
to
be in
become
it.
Red Hulk.
Yeah, but I was really interested to know about the new character that came out. I forgot what her name is. The one that came out, her name's Val. I forgot her
Yeah,
name.
Julia Louis Dreyfus played her.
Yeah, great character to
I don't
bring
know.
in.
She's so off the wall. I didn't even know who it was, to be completely honest.
Neither
Which,
did
from what
I.
I gather, I don't think anybody, even the hardcore Marvel people, were like, "Who is that?" Like, I don't think
Well,
they even realized who she was until they like looked into it.
well, they mentioned like a pretty big cameo, and everyone was. This is what I love about Marvel is like they'll literally let you say or think whatever, and then they just give you this, and it still work. It's a kind of a disappointment, but it's still a surprise.
Yeah.
It's the same
Valentina
thing.
Allegra de Fontaine. That's her name.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
she is like a double agent for Shield and Hydra, if I'm not mistaken. I
Mm.
could be wrong, but she's so that obviously goes to show that Hydra is still around,
Oh yeah.
and it'll still be a problem later on in the future.
I kind of have my own little theory about that because, as we know, if you're a follower of the Marvel comics, Lady Hydra is
Mhm.
is a is she's a villain. Um, and again, I wanted to hop into Sharon Carter because again, she was a character that I was really happy that they brought back, but I feel like her character in Civil War and her character in this series was night and day. In Civil War, I think she was genuinely trying to do the right thing and live up to her grandmother's name.
Mhm.
And in this series, especially that post credit scene, do you think that Sharon Carter could become Lady Hydra? Do you think
No,
she is that level of villain, or do you think she's just trying to get back at the people that wronged her when they didn't give her pardon, and when they kind of banished her and took her away from what she was?
I don't think so because I think Val's gonna end up being Lady Hydra
Really?
because Sharon Carter is obviously the power broker. If you think about it, I mean
Yeah,
it's
she is
obvious.
the she
Yeah,
is the power broker. She
and
admitted that. Yeah.
yeah, so when you think of Sharon Carter, people were surprised. Like they were wondering, like, did she become the power broker like after she left? I think that she was a power broker long before this movie. I think she was even the power broker
Really?
during Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. Her person, not even I don't even I guess you could say her personality,
Hmm.
because when she was with Steve and when she was helping them, she seemed different. She didn't seem kind of like this dark-sided, you don't know the full story kind of thing. And every single time we saw her in this series, I kind of felt like, wow, there's a lot more going on than we see. And
Hmm.
there was a little bit of mystery to her that you couldn't really put your finger on it, and you couldn't really place. And I think that that's going to be really interesting moving forward, and seeing how she kind of fits into things, and what information is she going to leak from the CIA and from the U.S. government to Hydra and to some of these other terrorist and villain groups that we're going to see over phase 4 and 5. So
Hmm.
I think she. Do you think she's in full on villain territory, or do you think she's kind of playing both sides a little bit?
I think she's probably playing both sides. Because I was gonna mention this. The reason why I'm pretty sure Karen's been the power broker is because when Zemo mentioned about the power broker, he mentioned it as if everybody knew about the power broker, and in order for him to know that before the blip, that means the power broker had to been around long before Civil War and probably before the Winter Soldier, before all this stuff
That's
happened with
fair.
Hydra.
That's fair.
So
Yeah.
Zemo's comment right there made me think, well, that means the power broker's been around for a while. And it's easy to suspect that Sharon Carter is it because the power broker was introduced in this show, but Sharon Carter was introduced long ago. So it could be the fact that she's been the power broker,
Yeah.
and Nick
I
Fury has
mean,
just been using her because also she's uh, in collusion with what's his name, the Frenchman, the one who plays who's played by George St.
yeah,
Pierre. Like
yeah,
they like it could because she's the one that hired that man to kill Sam, but that makes you think again, like, is she the one that hired him to hijack that ship for Nick Fury?
right. And I mean, it confirmed she is the power broker.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, I'm pouring another beer here. For me, I think for both Baron Zemo and Sharon Carter, uh, it seems like they still have a much larger story to be told
Mm-hmm.
moving forward. I don't think, especially Sharon Carter, I don't think that her story is going to end with this show. I think that post-credit scene is setting her up to be something um, greater and a little bit more of a driving force.
Mm-hmm.
And even Zemo, I really don't think we've seen the last of Zemo. I don't.
Oh, for
I
sure
think
not.
he's too interesting of a character. Um, very similar to Loki. I think he's got this essence about him that you like him. You kind of can't help but like him,
Yeah,
but he's
exactly.
always gonna be he's always got an ulterior motive. Even if he's helping you, he's always kind of taken the other way around to
Mm-hmm.
not even necessarily screw you over. He's just trying to get on top himself.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I think they both have a much larger story to be told in the greater MCU.
with Zemo's arc, I mean, we could talk about each character here, but if we're talking about Zemo, I think Zemo is a Zemo is a villain, but he's a villain with a decent with a semi understandable cause. You know what I mean? Because he
Yeah.
firmly believes that there should not be any uh, super soldiers in this world. Because you remember in his speech about when he was talking to Sam and Bucky about the whole supremacist thing and how the super soldier serum is like just
Mhm.
a aisle down to the whole ideals of supremacy. And it goes to show he's for he's for the lower people. Like he's for the people of Sokovia. Like he feels for all these people that are suffering
For
at the
sure.
hands of all of these people that are all these superheroes and supervillains that are just fighting along, and the civilians are the ones that are the casualty. So I think he has really good cause, and I think it'd be interesting to see him as a semi, so to speak, anti-hero, because he was kind of an anti-hero in this entire show, if you think about it. Like he
He
is an
was.
anti-hero in this show. So and he was a great foil for Sam and Bucky because
For sure.
both for Sam it was how do I live up to the reputations of Captain of Steve without the super soldier serum, and Zemo was like the super soldier serum is nothing but built on supremacist ideals, and
Yes.
Bucky, who is actually a product of the abuse of it because he didn't choose it. He didn't choose to be a super soldier.
Right.
Those ideals made him a super soldier, and he was used as a tool for those ideals. And he is trying to right his wrongs, whereas Zemo still sees him as just another tool in the whole supremacist ideals. So
Right.
I think that whole like trio, that conversation, I think it was like the second or third episode,
I believe
like
so.
around that area is when they were having that conversation.
I
I
think
thought it
it
was
was in
really
the
interesting.
Power Broker episode.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see those two interact, and like there were just so many themes in this show that uh that I think need to be addressed, and it's incredible. We could talk more about that later, but I just want to talk about more about the character arcs in these shows
Yeah.
because I want to ask you what you think of Carly Morgenthal's character in this show, the main villain, like the supposed main villain, basically.
Yeah. And I for sure wanted to bring this up in the whole one world, one people movement. Um, for me, I did not expect Carly to die. I thought she would have a little bit more of a redemptive arc.
Mm-hmm.
And she really didn't. In a way, I felt for her because, at the end, when her and Sam were fighting, she was trying to prove a point. in saying like, you're just like the rest of them. You're just gonna treat us the same way that the rest of these superheroes and the rest of the way that the American government has. And I thought it was such an important moment when Sam was just blocking her punches and she said, "Why won't you fight me?" Because Sam was trying to prove a point. Sam was trying to tell her, like, there are good people and there are people that are on your side. I really liked her character arc. I think she was trying again. Look at Zemo, look at Thanos, look at Carly Morgenthau. Every character that, every villain that we would consider to be the best villains are the ones who honestly believe that they're doing the right thing. And Carly truly believed that she was on the people's side and that she was doing the right thing, which is why she was dangerous. She didn't care who she killed. She didn't care who she pissed off. She felt that she was doing the right thing and she wasn't going to let anything stop her. Now, are we done? And this is a question that I had for you as well. Do you think we're done with the Flag Smashers, or is this a greater movement? Because she talked a whole lot about how the movement is ready and that there were others and that there are enough people that will back them, and this one world, one people movement, that even if she died, even if all of her party of super soldiers died, there would still be enough people to keep it going. So do you think we're done with the Flag Smashers, or do you think that's a recurring movement that we will see throughout this based on what happened with the blip?
I think it's going to be a recurring movement. I don't think, because honestly, the Flag Smashers are done for. I mean, you saw what happened to them. The rest of them that were put into that truck, it blew up because of Zemo. And I think that even though Carly Morgenthau's group of the Flag Smashers are gone, I think that idea of the whole movement is still going to be around, because obviously it's not going to change because of Sam's speech that he made at the end. It's not going to change. There's still going to be all of that, paper pushing politics coming through. And whenever we see more in the future, because like obviously this blip has affected a lot in that universe. So
and even to touch on that, I think that it's really creative, and I really like that both of these shows have really touched on the blip, because even in Endgame we saw a little bit of what happened when Ant-Man came out of the quantum realm, and there were all the posters up and everything was just kind of like chaos. There wasn't really any, and that had been 5 years after the blip. And after Thanos did what he did, it just like it was just kind of apocalyptic almost. And that was something that I think it's really cool that they're exploring. Is we went from when Thanos snapped and wiped out half of all life, there were repercussions for that. I mean, you got to, even like we saw at the end of Infinity War, when Nick Fury and what's her name?
Dang. I forgot
what her name is. When the helicopter's crashing and it's just chaos. I mean, that chaos was real. That was like an apocalyptic chaos that people had to deal with, and they had to deal with the effects after that. So I'm really glad to see them exploring, not only what happened after Thanos snapped, but after what happened when Bruce Banner snapped and the Hulk brought everybody back, because that's really important. I mean, it would feel strange if they just didn't ever explore that. So I'm really happy that they are, and I'm really happy that we have this Global Repatriation Council. I think that's
because it wouldn't. GRC. Yeah, it wouldn't make sense to like have Banner snap his fingers and everything just returns to normal.
It just went back to normal, like none of that ever happened, because that wouldn't be how it worked.
I think that was a great play for the writers.
It was
to do that, because I mean, obviously this is like a big thing with both snaps, because not only did the world progress forward and try to move on, but now all the people that were snapped away came back, and now we got to figure out what to do with them.
For sure.
That's a really like important topic to discuss, and I'm glad they're bringing that in throughout these two TV shows. And So whenever we're dealing with people like the Flag Smashers, I mean, obviously they're upset because the Flag Smashers were pretty much the people that um were there to survive during the blip. But then when
Yes.
they came back, they're being forced to move away because with all these people coming in, less resources, which is exactly what Thanos said. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He said there
Yeah.
not enough food and not enough material to go around for these people, and eventually, like that's exactly what's happening. Like maybe like Thanos was right to a certain degree again.
Well, of course. And I mean, even in real life, it's true. Um, humans destroy everything pretty much. If Thanos was around still, he would have a seat on the GRC.
Yeah,
he
would
he
say
would wholeheartedly agree with the GRC. So yeah, I thought the story arc with the Flag Smashers and what they were trying to do and their whole character arc I thought was really, really nice.
mm,
There's one character that we haven't even talked about yet.
who?
John Walker.
John Walker.
I have a whole lot to say about John Walker.
It's interesting to say the
It
least.
was interesting, and it was arguably my favorite character arc of the series.
Yes.
Now, going into this, I must say that Wyatt Russell knocked it out of the park.
He did.
And I know for a while, I mean, it takes a really special actor and it takes someone who really knows the role they're playing and who is really into the role they're playing to really make you genuinely not like them that much. And I don't know if you've watched any interviews with him. He's a really nice guy. I mean, he's Kurt Russell's son. Like, come on. He's a really, really nice guy. He's a really, really genuine guy.
Yeah, and he's a good actor. I've seen him in
He's
his
a
other
great
movies.
actor.
Yeah.
I think this is going to open a lot of doors for him too, and I hope it does because I think he's very talented.
I don't know, man. He's probably because you notice with the whole MCU, like if you're in the MCU, you're in the MCU. Like you have no time for any projects whatsoever until
he's also a
product
side
is done.
character though. He's not one of our main.
That's fair, yeah. Because I mean, what's his name? Who plays Loki? I forgot his name.
Tom Hiddleston.
Tom Hiddleston. Yeah, he's able to do some projects here and there. So
Yeah.
I could see him. I could see him. His career.
Yeah.
Exploding after this, but John Walker's character. Let me take a stab at this. It's important for John's character in this show because he represented like a huge symbol for what this show was meaning to do, which is the world didn't want a black Captain America, and whenever Sam gave away the shield, I mean, it was him just saying like, "Yeah, I agree," and he didn't want to face the repercussions of it. So then the government was like, "Okay, well, finally, we can have our very own Captain America," because even though Steve was Captain America, he wasn't the government's Captain America. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
even though Steve was Captain America, he was very anti-government, which is something they didn't like because obviously, he was against the Sokovia Accords. He was against what Shield was doing and all that jazz. And like even during Infinity War, whenever Ross like confronted him again, it's like you think everything is gonna be okay just because all this is happening. Like Steve was not able to be controlled. So when Steve retired and gave the shield to Sam, and Sam didn't feel ready for it and he gave it away, that was the government's moment to be like, okay, we finally have our opportunity to have a Captain America that will share our ideals. And that's where John Walker comes in.
I think I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think I agree with everything you just said. From the very beginning, I think part of the whole deal with people hating his character was that, we had grown so accustomed to Steve and people were so in love with Chris Evans playing Steve Rogers that the idea of someone else carrying that shield was like repulsive, And I think from the minute he walked out in that second episode in the Star Spangled Man as Captain America, I will agree with you in what you said that they were trying to make Captain America in their own image. And Steve Rogers kind of evolved into something else. You know, if you compare Steve Rogers to John Walker,
it's night and day.
They are complete. They're extremes, but they're extreme ends on the opposite spectrum. Steve Rogers, like you said, is very morally upright. He did take the other road. He wasn't completely on the same page with the U.S. government. But with that being said, Steve Rogers would have never slaughtered somebody on live TV in front of the entire world. I mean, that episode was titled "The Whole World Is Watching." Steve Rogers would have never done that.
Exactly.
John Walker is the opposite of him, because John Walker, and I think it's perfect that he becomes U.S. agent, because while John Walker is a morally upright man, and while he does have his Medal of Honors and he did serve in the military, and he believes he's doing the right thing, but he will do whatever it takes to get there. He will double cross people. He will kill innocent people. John Walker, I think, is one of the most dangerous villains we've had on the show. And I know he's not necessarily a villain, or in the MCU, not on the show. I know he's not, U.S. agent is not technically a villain. He's more of an anti-hero, kind of rides that line in between hero and villain. But I think, his character arc was so great for me, because it really, you felt his descent into like madness. And then that last episode really kind of, I think he got a little piece of himself back. And I think that's kind of where U.S. agent is going to fall. Again, he's not going to be a Steve Rogers. He's not always going to do the right thing, no matter whose side he's on. But he's going to do what he thinks is right. And excuse me. He's going to do whatever completes his goal. Whatever goal he has in his mind, he's going to do whatever it takes. He's not going to do the morally upright thing. He will do what Captain America will not. So I think his descent into insanity really was kind of one of my favorite parts about the show, because it felt like there was weight. Like, I felt like there was a genuine weight. And it kind of, when it climaxed and he killed that person with the shield, I mean, it was just like, what? I mean, I remember sitting there watching that and I was like, holy shit, this got wild.
Yeah, it did. I think his descent to madness comes from him taking the super soldier serum, because you could tell, because before he took the super soldier serum, before he took it, the conversation was brought up again about what the super soldier serum does. Like, it enhances what you are. And John Walker was pretty much a soldier. He was just someone that took orders and did whatever he needed to do to get the goal achieved. And whenever he took the super soldier serum, he was like, his desire to get the mission finished basically increased. So it turned into he'll stop at nothing to get the job done.
Yes. So
I think it was interesting to even for that theme to continue on of the super soldier serum will, if you're a good man, it makes you a great man. If you're a bad man, it makes you a worse man. Yes. Pretty much. And I think this show is really important, because I think the show is pretty much trying to prove Zemo wrong in the show. It's because he's saying super soldier serum is just nothing but another road into supremacy, because the whole spiel again. And seeing John Walker's story arc, because he is a man of privilege, and everything he has been built on by those that are more or less fortunate. And so when it came down to him at the end, whenever he had to make the decision whether to go after Carly or save the people, you could see him actively rethink his position and where he's in life, or where he's in that situation, and decide to do the right thing, obviously to save his people, basically proving proving against Zemo's case that the super soldier serum is completely bad, because in that conversation with Bucky and Sam and Zemo, Bucky rebutted his statement saying, maybe you're wrong because the serum never corrupted Sam. And Zemo obviously said that's true, but there's never been a Steve Rogers. I said Sam, but I'm talking about Steve Rogers.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I knew.
But I think I think this show was pretty much saying like, yes, Steve is gone, and there'll never be someone just like him, but there will be people that want to be like him, and will try. And I think with John Walker becoming a U.S. agent, I think the future of his story will be trying to win the hearts of the people again. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because what he did was obviously atrocious.
I think he will ride that line though as U.S. agent of he will do what a Captain America or what an Iron Man or what a Spider-Man won't do. You know, he's willing to go to the dark side a little bit and to you know, to dance with the devil a little bit to get to do, you know, he's a soldier, just like you said. And I really interesting thought with that. You know, we talked about the US government trying to make Cap in their own image, and somebody that would work for them. Captain America isn't a symbol that works for the government. Captain America is a symbol for the people. And if you look at, you know, like you said, John Walker was privileged. Not to say that he didn't work hard, not to say that he wasn't, you know, a great soldier and that he didn't fight for his country. I don't think he's an entirely bad guy, but he has a little bit of privilege. If you look at the two previous Captain Americas, Steve Rogers was a little scrawny guy who got the shit kicked at him all the time. Bucky had to come save him half the time. He couldn't do anything. He was small. He was tiny. Sam Wilson, you know, not quite the same thing. He's a black man. And another theme was the whole Isaiah Bradley, you know, they don't want a black Captain America. And also, you know, black people have been, you know, persecuted for years, and that was a theme, and I love that they wove that into this. I love that at the end of the series, you know, Sam got Isaiah Bradley that the statue and the little section, you know, devoted to him in the Captain America Museum. I thought that was fantastic. I thought it was amazing. It was one of my favorite parts of the show. But you know, Captain America, Steve and Sam both, they fight for the little people. They fight for the people, not for the government and the government's interests. John Walker is the antithesis of Sam and Steve because he is willing to do whatever it takes for the government. He's more on the government side than he really is on the people side. And I think that's where the difference between a Steve Rogers, Sam Wilson Captain America and a John Walker Captain America. And again, I know now he's US agent and that's going to be a whole other deal. But that was just an interesting thought, because I think Captain America should be someone that fights for the people. And you even mentioned the super soldier serum. You know, I think Zemo is right. I think the super soldier serum brings out more of you and what you really are. In Sam's case, or not in Sam, in Steve's case, it brought out that wanting to fight for the people, even if the government wasn't on your side. And, you know, that uprightness and wanting to do the right thing. In John Walker, it brought out the I take orders and I'm going to get the job done type scenario. So
yeah, because he talked about it. He talked about it before he took the super soldier serum, about like that Medal of Honor he had, those awards he has, like those were given to him for decisions that he knew were morally wrong.
Right. Yeah.
And he still hasn't come to terms with it. So he's
perfect point.
Really conflicted. So whenever he got the super soldier serum, it just increased that frustration with the morals that he has. So
for sure.
I think that now that he's the US agent, he's not necessarily controlled by the government, so to speak. Like he's not working for the government; he's mainly working for himself. I think this would be a interesting take to see how he progresses because I mean, since the start of the show, since episode 2 all the way down to the season finale, like I kind of grew to like John Walker a little bit. Like he's someone that even though he did those things and he comes from privileged life, like he's trying to do what is right, even though it's moralistically wrong.
Yeah, and again, I think that's kind of where U.S. Agent resides. He's not necessarily a hero, but he's not really a villain either. He's just kind of he's willing to go into the darkness a little bit to do the right thing or to get what he wants.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really, really interesting. Another thing I wanted to bring up, and this is kind of a small thing, in the season finale, which I thought was one of the better episodes of the series. The season finale got a lot of flack from Rotten Tomatoes and IGN and a couple of other entertainment news outlets, and I'm not really sure why. I remember reading that a couple people thought that a lot of the story arcs that they had been setting up didn't really pay off in the end. I think they paid, especially Sam's. I mean, obviously, that was kind of the whole purpose of the series. But I thought a lot of the character arcs paid off. One thing I thought was kind of strange was that Spider-Man was not in that climactic fight scene because for me, I feel like if they're in New York City, Spider-Man would have been all over that. And it's kind of funny because the director was actually asked directly, why wasn't Spider-Man in that? Like, I guess I wasn't the only one who thought, like, where is Spider-Man right now?
Yeah.
Did you know Kevin Feige shot that down?
What do you mean?
They wanted the what's his first name? Spellman is his last name.
Like Kevin Feige wouldn't let him answer the question?
No,
or he just like brushed it off.
The director wanted Spider-Man in the finale. And here's what the director had to say. He said, of course, then Kevin Feige tells you, no, stop it, listen. When you first show up to these projects, in your mind, you think you're going to get used to everybody in the MCU or get to use everybody in the MCU. But Marvel always has to ask, does this person belong in the story? You cannot geek out and put all of our characters in your project because you like them. They have to occur organically. So Spider-Man didn't make it.
Yeah.
And I get that. Because honestly, if they would have thrown Spider-Man in, everybody would have been like, holy shit, it's Spider-Man. Like they would have freaked out for that reason. So
I think that's a problem the MCU is gonna have pretty soon because the MCU is getting so big that the MCU is gonna be cornering themselves into a wall because with all of these things happening at these locations, like it's almost as if they have to be in there.
They have to overlap.
Like they have to overlap.
And it's like the comic books. They overlap constantly in the comic books.
Yeah, there's plenty of cameos in these comic
almost
books.
Every single entry in the comic books is a crossover thing, even if it's only between like 2 or 3 characters.
So I think that's where the MCU is having a really tough time because it's not a comic book. It's
for sure
high budget TV and film, and it costs money to have these characters in there. And logistically, I feel like logistically it would have been hard to have Spider-Man in that and for it to work for the grander story, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, on one hand, I'm like, it's weird that Spider-Man wasn't there, and you try to suspend disbelief and justify it a little bit, like maybe he was busy. He was busy fighting somebody else. He was doing. It's in New York. There's a lot going on in New York. But I just thought that was kind of interesting. But then, of course, on the other hand, it's like, I get it. I get that moment needed to be about the fact that Sam was Cap. Like that's what that needed to be about. And, another thing is, where the MCU is going to start running into problems, like you just said, is, look at Madripoor. I think it was very cool that they chose to use Madripoor as such an important location in this series. But as we know, Madripoor is a very important X-Men location as well.
Yeah.
You know, everything from, I believe Wolverine lived there at one point. There's a lot of undercover X-Men that are from Madripoor. They're gonna have to start tying things together a little bit more, or it's gonna feel like, why isn't this character here? Just like the whole
And I think,
Spider-Man question.
again, I think that's because the expectations are higher now with this phase coming in, because during the Infinity Saga, like no one didn't know what was going on all the way up closer to the end. Say like, I would say probably since the Avengers, the first Avengers and second Avengers, people were starting to understand what's going on. But before then, they were just trying to set it up, and we didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
So that's why it worked so beautifully to see all these things and for them to set up the world. But now, with after the Infinity Saga, it's kind of expected. Like every little moment has to be connected to something.
Right.
So that's where the MCU and Kevin Feige are having. I feel like they're having a little bit of a shtick right now, trying to build a world piece by piece instead of giving it all to us at one TV show or in one movie. You know what I mean? Like they want to build it, but the fans want more. They just want pure fan service now.
For sure. And well, and I don't even know if I'd say they want pure fan service, but I think especially fans of the comic books, they're going to be looking for that multi-dimensional. It's not about any single character anymore. You know, moving forward, I think Marvel has to change their formula. They have to. They can't use the same formula that we had for phases 1 through 3, because again, look at Iron Man, look at the Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2. They took however many films to even build up to the Avengers. You know, again, before we even really knew that the Infinity War was going to happen. Yes, they laid the foundation. It wasn't until the post-credit scene of the Avengers that we got the whole Thanos when he like turns around in the chair, and then Age of Ultron when he actually puts on the glove and says, "Fine, I'll do it myself." It's like, okay, yeah, we're going towards Infinity War. Like that was the point where it clicked. But look how many films they took to do that were basically standalone things except for the post-credit scene. But Marvel, they're in a different world now. We're living in the Endgame world, where Endgame was like the biggest superhero it was the biggest superhero crossover event of all time. So they're living in a world now where they have to play off of all of these different characters and make it make sense. And if it doesn't, they're gonna fans are gonna know. You know, and of course, this was a small thing. I don't mean to make a big deal out of nothing. I just as I was watching it, I was like, why isn't Spider-Man here? Because like New York City is Spider-Man's like that's his thing. Like that's his thing. And you know, if the Fantastic Four were actually a part of this, I would say, where's the Baxter Building? Where are the Fantastic Four? How come they're not there? You know, there are too many characters on top of each other now that it's gonna feel strange when some of them aren't there, or when you have a story about one single character. So that's just something that I think Kevin Feige and Marvel and Disney really need to take into consideration as they move forward. And I know Kevin Feige said, you know, back at that Disney Investor Day thing, you never know who you're going to see. And these, I know Don Cheadle had a small cameo. I think I saw in She-Hulk, it's reported that Charlie Cox has a role in She-Hulk, which would make sense because she's a lawyer and Charlie Cox is a lawyer because he's Daredevil, and Matt Murdock. But I don't know. I think they need to start thinking in crossover terms, or it's going to start to feel like they're trying to retrace the same formula that they had at the beginning. And I don't think that's going to work this time.
No, because the fans want the MCU to evolve into basically like a comic book world where almost everyone can be in anything at any point in time.
For sure.
And I think that's where the MCU are going to have another challenge on their hands, because the first challenge was just, you know, making this entire world that we all come to love.
Oh yeah.
Now it's to keep the fans, because like we talked about before, like if the MCU doesn't continue to evolve, there will be a burnout, so to speak.
Superhero fatigue.
Yeah,
we're gonna hit it. I mean, it's gonna happen. That's why I wholeheartedly think they need to change it up. They need to do a different formula. Like this Spider-Verse movie that we have coming out, this needs to be mind-blowing.
Yep.
I wholeheartedly believe
if it ends up being disappointing, I think if it disappoints too much, it's gonna be a really big hit for the MCU, which I doubt it. I'm sure they have plenty. I'm sure they have enough planned out coming from the news and all that and all the rumor mills. But I'm just saying, Spider-Man, No Way Home is gonna set the tone for the future of the MCU.
For sure, it will. And even another thing, I've seen a lot of people mention this, and I know that we have the Fantastic Four have officially been announced. There's a whole bunch of different characters that are being announced for phases 4 and 5, especially. I'm seeing it more and more on Marvel forums and on Facebook and on a lot of the pages that I'm in and Facebook groups and things like that. People are saying, where the hell are the X-Men? Where are mutants? And I'm like, yeah, I kind of agree. Do you?
I'd say I agree.
Because, I mean, the X-Men are a big part of the comic books. I mean, they really are. I mean, I think in the comics, they're just as important as the Avengers are, really. So, I mean, again, I know there's a lot going on, but where are the X-Men? Where are mutants? Like, I know there was a theory a while ago that said Thanos' snap and the energy would create mutants. I don't know if I like that or not, but
I don't mind it. It's honestly, I mean, I could see that happening. Like you said, like Rocket said in Endgame, he said when Thanos snapped, Earth became ground zero for cosmic energy, and I think the snap really did do stuff. And I think now that there was 2 snaps in the world, I mean, it had to have done something. They had to.
Hopefully we get Easter eggs soon. I know Madripoor is the first big X-Men Easter egg that we've gotten, and I believe forgive me if you're watching and you don't know, if you know specifics that I don't. I know that there have been different. I think Marvel posted on a website or something like that. There were a whole bunch of X-Men Easter eggs in like a Madripoor website or a Falcon the Winter Soldier or something like that, and it got taken down. So I don't know. Maybe Madripoor is the beginning of them trying to ease the X-Men idea in. But I think they need to start using some of these heavy hitter heroes now that Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans are out of the mix. Because if they don't, man, I'm afraid that they're gonna rely on heroes and characters that the majority of people have never heard of, and it's gonna hurt them. And again, if the Spider-Verse is underwhelming, it might turn people off. I know I'm going to be disappointed if No Way Home is very like, meh,
Yeah, I gotcha.
I think it has the potential to be the best in the whole Spider-Man franchise.
I'm sure it does.
I think it does.
But that's like, I don't know. I don't want to hype us up for it. Because I don't want you to end up like, how you were in Godzilla versus Kong. Like you were hyped up for it,
and I enjoyed it. I really did. I genuinely enjoyed Godzilla versus Kong, but I didn't walk out of there feeling like, wow, that was amazing. I really didn't.
Yeah, which I understand, but I just don't. That's why I'm trying not to go in that movie with high expectations. I'm happy to talk about it and talk about these theories, but I'm not expecting. Yeah, exactly. Cautious optimism. So I don't know. Sure. I really hope the MCU I hope they have something under their belt to keep this going forward and not just continue on with the formula that they have, because obviously superhero fatigue is a thing, and it will come a time whenever we start seeing comments like The Walking Dead. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, I remember the Infinity Saga was so good before. I'm not gonna watch it now. So it's Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that it won't be good then when superhero fatigue does set in amongst the greater public, because I mean, again, you mentioned The Walking Dead, and that's a really nice point. I mean, I see it on Facebook every single time. One of my favorite things to do is after an episode of The Walking Dead, get on their Facebook page. It's hilarious. Read through the comments because it's people who are like, I stopped watching in 2007. And I'm like, then why are you watching right now? That's not true. Like, shut up. Or in season 7, the show wasn't even on in 2007. So yeah, I hope that they change up their formula, and I hope that Marvel realize, DC's falling into this. They're falling into they gave up the Snyderverse for Blue Beetle and for Black Adam and for Shazam, and I'm like, why? Like, you can still do all of that. Like, Marvel can still throw in Shang-Chi and all of these other side characters while still using some of your heavy hitters. Use the X-Men, man. Use the Fantastic Four. Use Red Hulk. Use all of these really cool characters while throwing in all these other side ones. I worry that they're not gonna, in trying to, because what they're doing is they're trying to leave themselves a place to go, which I get. You have to do that. That makes sense. But I think I don't want them to move so slow, and I don't want them to introduce characters and story arcs so slowly that it gets like people are just like, whatever, I'm done. Does that make sense? Would you agree with that?
I agree with that. But I'm not, I mean, Shang-Chi is going to be a good movie for sure. And I think you'll introduce that side. I think it's, I'm going to put this right. I want to say the MCU is going back to its core idea of world building. And that's smart because, I mean, we can't go back to the same places we've been to over and over. Otherwise, it gets a little tedious. So I think Shang-Chi, I think Shang-Chi will be, sorry guys, I'm probably saying it Shang-Chi or whatever, but I think the movie,
Shang-Chi, you're right.
Yeah, I think that movie will be another world building entry into the MCU, and I'm excited for it.
Speaking of Shang-Chi, I'm sorry, I keep saying it wrong. I watched a video the other day on YouTube. There are a ton of Easter eggs throughout all of the movies for the 10 Rings. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, I knew that. It was because you didn't even know about that side
I didn't.
episode.
I honestly, I was not familiar with the 10 Rings before we started looking into that. But even in Iron Man 3, and I'll have to go back and watch in a few different.
It was let me label it out. It was in Iron Man 1.
There's a few different places that
Iron Man 3. It was in that side episode. One of the there is a scene where some goon was doing something and he had a tattoo of the 10 Rings.
Yes.
And it goes like the 10 Rings has been around for a while. I think bringing up all of these villainous groups like Hydra, the 10 Rings, and Hammer Industries is coming back, I'm pretty sure. Like bringing all of these side ones are interesting because it's introducing a new story within MCU about the Avengers are done. Like they've been done. There's no Avengers since Civil War and Infinity War. There hasn't been an Avengers. So these groups are coming out and they think they have an opportunity to reclaim what was theirs. And I think the next phase, this entire phase of the MCU is going to be about how do we continue to protect people without our greatest asset, which is what's the Avengers, which is where we have Falcon and Winter Soldier, and we have Shang-Chi, and then we also have what's it called? What's the new TV show that's coming out with Don Cheadle?
Iron Wars.
Iron Wars, yeah. Like we're gonna have all of these shows come out because it's important to say because all of these groups are coming back because Earth doesn't have its greatest defenders group ever now.
See, I think about it a little bit differently. I completely understand what you're saying, and I don't even necessarily completely disagree. But I think what that meant in Endgame when Steve Rogers says Avengers Assemble, I think that was the point where the Avengers wasn't 6 people anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They're all the Avengers now.
Mm-hmm.
I think every single hero that lined up to fight Thanos, they're all the Avengers. So for
To
me,
us, to us, I agree.
Right. Even if they're not listed as the Avengers, I think every single one of them share, everybody from Spider-Man to War Machine to Captain America, Sam Wilson's Captain America, to Bucky, to Doctor Strange, to Spider, every single one of them, I think and a common theme that we're going to see throughout phases 4 and 5 is, how do you live up to that? How do you live up to being an Avenger?
Mm-hmm.
And we've already seen that with Sam and Bucky trying to make his past right and right all of his wrongs and become the person and the hero that he should be. Sam becoming Captain America and really, realizing the potential in himself and the potential that Steve saw in him. Spider-Man in No Way Home, dealing with this bigger world, this multi-dimensional world, and trying to figure that out. And if our original prediction and what we reported on in episode number 2, 18 episodes ago, holy shit, if that was correct, and this is really the conclusion of the teenage years Spider-Man, this, for all of our heroes, this is going to be a really big growing point for them, because they're not just the Iron Patriot, or they're not just Spider-Man, or they're not just Doctor Strange. They're not just Captain America anymore. They're all the Avengers. So they have to live up to that. So that's kind of how that's how I think about it in my own head. So I'm very intrigued, and I'm very excited to see what the future is. Again, I don't even know if I want to say I'm cautiously optimistic. I am optimistic. I think they'll find a way, and I think they'll find a way to do it really well. I just hope that we don't fall into DC syndrome, where they're pulling characters that nobody cares about and that nobody's ever heard of, and it doesn't make any sense. And that's not to say it won't be great. I think it'll be great, but I'm not going to lie to you. I had never heard of Shang-Chi before it was announced. I hadn't. So
because I would say you were you were pretty much inducted with the MCU, as for a good majority of us that were like,
I don't even
I don't think I would readers.
I don't think that I would say I was inducted with the MCU. I think you and I both were Marvel fans long before the MCU ever even existed. I just he was a character that he was never on my radar. I was a Hulk guy. I was a Spider-Man guy. I was a Wolverine guy, Iron Man, Captain America. Your main Marvel go-tos: Elektra, Daredevil, Venom. I mean, they were the characters that I was really, really into growing up. So I don't know. I never got into Shang-Chi and even the Guardians of the Galaxy. And I think we're not alone in saying that I wasn't real. I knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were, but I wasn't really into the Guardians of the Galaxy before the MCU. And that's one of the things, we criticize it, but that's, I think, one of the things that Disney and Marvel do the best is they take these side characters that nobody even really knows or pays attention to, and they bring them into the limelight, and they make them the star of the show. So again, we criticize it, but I think it was really, really, it's been great so far. And I think they have the potential to continue and make phases 4, 5, and 6 even better than what we've seen before. I think the potential is there. It's just how they go about it. And, again, we're not the writers. We're not Kevin Feige. We don't know, we don't know what their greater plan is, but I'm very excited to see where it goes.
Same.
So overall, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I should say Captain America and the Winter Soldier, since we're really Captain America and the White Wolf, because he's not the Winter Soldier anymore. He's not. I think Bucky has evolved past the Winter Soldier. Would you agree?
I agree. I think he's just Bucky now. I mean,
he is. I think he is. I think he's lived up to that White Wolf. He's gonna do the right thing every time.
Yeah.
What's your overall rating for the show? Overall rating.
I would give it either 8.5 or a 9 out of 10.
I think I'm going to go an 8.5. I think that falls really, really well. It's one of the better. It was better than WandaVision, and I think it's some of the greatest story arcs in the entire MCU.
Yep.
It makes me very excited, and it lays seeds for things that will come up for Zemo, for Sharon Carter, for the Flag Smashers, and that whole blip movement of all these displaced people, all these people that came back after the Hulk snapped. It also sets up what we're going to see with Sam and Bucky moving forward. I think I'm going to give it an 8.5 because it sets up things so well, and it just sets up what's to come. So
I just think I would give it an 8.5 overall because overall it's just such great storytelling that they were doing. Disney took a big risk.
Did you just see that?
Yeah.
I definitely just spilled water out of my mouth.
Good job, my man. But Disney definitely took a big risk with these TV shows. They really did.
They really did.
They're knocking it out of the park. And it's coming to this. I have this thought thinking, are they better off doing TV shows or series? Because let's be honest, there was so much more in-depth storytelling with
that's a hot take.
The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and just how many episodes was it? 6? 6 episodes, and they did a lot more storytelling than they did in any movie so far.
Well, you have more time.
Yeah, you have more time, exactly. So it's like, what do we want? Do we want just one? Do we want a 2-hour spectacle and wait another year, or do we want these series that pretty much have more storytelling and more time to watch? You know what I mean?
I think there's room for both. I really do.
Maybe.
I think they're smart. I mean, I was one of the people when I saw that they were doing TV shows. I was like, why? Don't do that. Just stick to movies.
Before we were very pessimistic about TV shows because
then you watch it and it's like, oh, I get it. Like they're using this to expand on what they've already done. And I think if they continue to do that, if the movies are still the main deal and the TV shows fill in all the gaps and build the world up so that you can use those same concepts and characters and themes in the movies, but you're just kind of filling in the gaps. I think that's really, really smart. And I hope that they continue to do that. I genuinely do. And I'm very optimistic for the future of the MCU. So I really am. Speaking of the future of the MCU, let's talk Loki a little bit. Loki premieres again in 5 weeks. It premieres on June 11th is when the first episode drops. It will be in 6 episodes, so it'll be 6 45-ish minute episodes, the same as the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. What are your expectations or your predictions, or even what do you want to see out of Loki? Because I think Loki is going to be a much different series than we saw in WandaVision or in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because it's the first Disney show, or I'm sorry, the first MCU series show to take place not on Earth. It's out in space. It's out in different dimensions. It's going to be, kind of tackling different things. So what are your expectations going into Loki?
Honestly, my man, I have no fucking clue.
That's fair.
I have none. I have none.
That's fair.
Because if you think about it, I have no idea what to expect with this because, I mean, yeah, I don't know what Loki's goal is right now in the whole span of this cinematic world, because this isn't the Loki we all know. It isn't. This is Avengers Loki, 2012 Avengers Loki.
Yeah.
And back then we only knew him as Conqueror, like wanting to have his face, plastered all over the world
Yeah, that's fair. That's
to
fair.
praise him. And it'd be interesting because we're gonna see Loki like grow more as a character, but it's gonna be in a different way because we've already seen Loki grow and have this whole like redemption arc.
It will be different.
But now it's Avengers 2012 Loki who hasn't learned all these things. So it'd be interesting to see. Like, I don't know what's to come from this. This is probably the most wacky one we've seen so far. You know what I
Honestly,
mean?
yeah, I completely understand, and I agree with you. I'm kind of expecting a little bit of wackiness. I'm
Mm-hmm.
hoping for a little bit of wackiness. I hope that this is not. I want to see Loki being Loki. To be completely honest, I really
Mm.
do. Um, I think there's room for a little bit of lightheartedness and a little bit of, where Marvel, what they do so well is they drive the story forward. Like they're constantly driving the narrative forward. And I think this series in particular, because Loki is the god of mischief, I think this series in particular has it has room for a little bit of fun and a little bit of
Mm.
like I just want to take some time and I want to see Loki being Loki. Just like the first few episodes of WandaVision, we just kind of got to see Wanda and Vision being a married couple hanging out at home.
Yeah.
And yes, there were little seeds of things thrown in. And I do want to see little seeds of things thrown in. And of course, Loki, it's going to move towards a bigger storyline. They have a purpose for doing a Loki series. But I just kind of want to see him getting into mischief as he's the god of mischief and getting
Mm-hmm.
into just screwing people over and, being stupid. Something that I dove into because in the trailer for Loki, we saw Owen Wilson in the elevator with him. And I looked up the TVA because I didn't know what it was. And the TVA is the Time Variance Authority. And the Time Variance Authority claims responsibility for monitoring the multiverse. And they take action to prevent other beings from affecting the past or affecting the future.
Mm.
So hopefully that's what Loki's going to be up to. I don't know if Loki is going to go back in time to try to make him the Chitauri win in the first Avengers film. I don't know if Loki is going to go back in time to try to be what Thor was. I don't know. But again, we're talking about the multiverse. We have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. We have the Spider-Verse. It's very clear that Marvel is building towards the multiverse. And I think Loki is going to lay some seeds for that. So I'm very curious to see how the Time Variance Authority plays into things. Do you think that could have any effect on Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange of the Multiverse of Madness?
Probably.
I think it probably will.
certain.
I feel like
I think it would have more
it would have
implications
to,
with.
or else it would feel weird.
Yeah, I think it would have more implications with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of
Probably,
Madness.
yes.
And
I would agree.
I keep thinking that Spider-Man No Way Home is gonna have hints of the multiverse, but it's not gonna be the full picture. That's what I'm kind of thinking of. Like what Loki does is gonna affect Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Right. I don't think it'll have any. Excuse me. I'm yawning. I don't know why. It's late. That's why. I don't think the events of Loki will have any direct correlation to the events of No Way Home, but I think it'll kind of hint at themes that we'll get in No Way Home. The other thing, and that I'm kind of hoping for, and there were a couple of little Easter eggs in the trailer for Loki, is Kang the Conqueror. I believe there was a statue of Kang in one of the Loki trailers. He is confirmed to be a villain in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So would you like to see Kang?
I like to see hints. Yeah,
I would like to see hints of Kang, even maybe in the same way in a post-credit scene for Loki. in the same way that we saw Thanos at the end of the Avengers and at the end of Age of Ultron, where you just kind of see a glimpse of him. You don't really get like a whole Thanos. It's just like you get little glimpse. I would like to see a little glimpse of Kang the Conqueror thrown in there. I think that'd be
because Kang is like, he's like the villain of the multiverse, pretty much, if I'm not mistaken, because he's someone that's he's a time traveler. He does all this stuff.
He's a time
that's why
traveler.
He knows. That's how he knows how to. That's why he's known to be like a strategic person like that. So it'd be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah.
Would love to see Kang the Conqueror in it. It's just there's just so much that I don't know about this TV show. That's why I'm going in it blind, pretty much.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay going in blind and not really knowing what to expect. It'll be a fun one to watch. I think it's really interesting that Kang is going to be in Quantum Mania because, obviously we know the quantum realm has time travel effects because of what they did in Endgame. They went back in time to go and do that. So obviously Kang is going to have a role in Quantum Mania, and I think we're going to get to see Kang hopefully we'll get to see Kang a little bit in Loki with the whole multiverse idea and things like that. So
yeah,
I'm very excited for Loki. I think it's going to be a fun one. I think it's going to be very unique. And I think it's going to be different than WandaVision or the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, and I hope so. I hope all three of these series are going to be different in their own mind,
for sure,
in their own way. So we'll just have to see.
Come 5 weeks. Have to see. 5 weeks, man. We are counting down. But guys, that is going to do it for episode 20. This is 20 weeks of Let's Talk Movies. We want to thank you so much to everyone who has pushed us forward, to everyone who has followed us on Twitter and Instagram and liked our posts, shared them to your story. Thank you so much to everybody who has followed us on YouTube and subscribed to our channel and left us comments and tried to build this community. Again, that was our main goal, is building a community of people who love to watch movies and TV and entertainment. And that is what we talk about every single week. New episodes of Let's Talk Movies drop on Monday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And our other show, Let's Talk Movie News, drops on Friday evenings at 8 p.m., where we just talk about the week's movie news. It is a movie news specific show. Again, thank you so much. Leave us a comment and let us know what you thought of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And what are your predictions for Loki? What are your predictions for the greater MCU moving forward? Be sure to let us know on YouTube or tweet at us at We Talk the Movies and let us know. Guys, thank you so much. We will talk to you all soon. Peace.